Shalom, Hebrews. This is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. Okay, check this out, Hebrews. Is there any verses? Is there any verses with the Creator saying that He would kick the Israelites out the promised land if the covenant was broken? That need to be understood, because it's people claiming an Israelite heritage that ain't basically never left the promised land, and they go back and forth from the promised land to other nations. And you know, these people been kicked out a few times, but they find themselves coming back, and they super armed. And matter of fact, they there now and can't be removed because they got nuclear arms and got a military so strong and supported by a whole bunch of nations. And how that they get to be on the land, and it's prophecies in the Bible, in the Tanakh history, in the Torah specifically, that say that the Hebrews will be kicked out the land if the covenant was broken. So if the Hebrews would be kicked out the land, at what point was they kicked out the land, and at what point was the covenant broken? I'm going to show that history. And you know, this is the thing that the Creator said in part of the covenant contract, that if the Hebrews broke the covenant, that they would be kicked out the land. And that if the Hebrews was kicked out the land, that certain atrocities and disasters would befall them, and it's called the curses, and how that they couldn't avoid it. And how about it's some people today called African American, blacks, Negroes, and all them old evil titles that have the curses on them, and they come from the same place that the Hebrews ran to after the covenant was broken. Now, why come these other people, you know, claiming the Israelite heritage, still in the promised land, and, you know, it's making it seem like that the Creator is not real and that prophecy is not real, you know? And I'm going to tell you, people, that's listening to the Israelite Brotherhood station. Listen, everybody don't know this truth, and the only people that know that the Israelites ran into Africa during the Babylonian wars will be your rabbis. The rabbis, because they constantly reading the book. They constantly reading the book that everybody else that would just basically read a verse here and there, maybe a few chapters, that nobody has dedicated their whole life to studying the Tanakh history like the rabbis. So everybody that's not a rabbi not gonna know that the Israelites ran into Africa, and that's where, you know, the big deception in the world come in, you know. But now that this history is finna be general knowledge. And I just want to show that the Creator said that the Hebrews will be kicked off the land, driven off the land, if the covenant was broken. And I can show that the covenant was broken and that the Israelites was driven off the land. And then, you know, I can show where the Israelites was driven off the land. You know, it's a lot of myths going on today, you know. And it's like this video too, Hebrews. I want to, you know, when I first made this video right here, man, about Hebrew Israelite camps teaching lies, you can see, don't be a fool. How about it's probably the best video where a lot of Hebrews, you know, hope, you know, people done seen this video. And man, I can't believe the dislikes and the dislike comments. How about that whoever dislike this truth, don't like truth, and don't believe in truth, for the simple fact that I showed in this video that the people, you know, the Israelites that we call camps, are teaching untruths, because they teaching the 10 lost tribe doctrine, and then they teaching that we went into Africa in 70 AD, and that we went all over the world, and that the Syrians took us and we vanished. Man, all kind of myths, man, and that those camps be using Jewish myths, You know, those camps be using Jewish myths. And, you know, the Israelite Brotherhood don't use Jewish myths. We showing you the difference between Israelite history and Jewish myths. Jewish myths are going to be every single book outside the Tanakh. You know, I know a lot of Hebrews will say, well, they didn't put this book in there and they didn't put that book in there. I'm here to tell you that the Tanakh that we have today is the book that we wrote and created when we was on the promised land, and that how the Babylonian scribes got our books and start, you know, rewriting our history. That's like a lot of Hebrews will say, man, you don't know what this word say in Hebrew. Man, this word say this in Hebrew. Look this word up. And how about them Hebrews don't know that the Amorites that we abandoned our heritage to spoke Hebrew too? They wrote in Hebrew and they spoke Hebrew. How about that they wouldn't have the same meanings of words that we have? You know, that's like we could say, man, that's bad. And you know, bad can mean good. You know, and that applies to the Tanakh translations too, that the people who translated our history from Hebrew into Aramaic and the different languages that they translated into, even though they spoke Hebrew, they wouldn't have the same meanings of words that we have, even though they spoke Hebrew. They not us. So every single word is not going to be the same. So when you Hebrews be saying, man, look at this word mean this in Hebrew, and this word mean this, and this, man, if you know the whole history, if you done studied the whole history, one word ain't going to alter the history. One word is not going to alter the Tanakh history. You know, one word ain't going to alter the Tanakh history. 100 words misspelled is not gonna alter the Tanakh history that we have today. And it's consistent with history, and that the Tanakh that we have today, even though it's in the English language, you still get to see that the Israelites broke the covenant for Egyptian religion. And you know, I'm gonna show you that the Creator said we will be driven out, and that it happened during the Babylonian wars. You know, this is a speech that Prophet Moses said, and man, it come to pass. You know, when Prophet Moses said that we Israelites would be driven out the land if we disobeyed the covenant and broke the covenant. And this is another thing: if the Israelites are driven out the land for breaking the covenant, then it's no escaping the curses. It's no escaping the hardships. And I was just watching this video how this brother was trying to explain the tax system, and how the system is structured. You know, he called it the black tax. You know, the cost of being black in America. See, he don't know that the name black is a danger itself, being categorized as that, because the Amorite culture that we are in captivity to, man, they ain't letting it get away. If black is classified as negative, then you're gonna get treated negative. But what this brother was explaining is how that our every labor during the slavery days, you know, was 100% tax. And how he don't really know that the curse is in Israelite history, but what he was trying to explain was that the tax in this system that was set up with the contracts and tax, how it basically destroyed us and got us destroyed right now today, and how he break down the economic system and how they oppressed us in all kind of slick ways for 90 years, 100 years under this system. And how I would like to have showed this brother before he made that video about the Babylonian scribes from Sipper, where the whole tax system come from, the whole Amorite culture come from. That if he knew that, man, he could have really explained, you know, the troubles that we in and stuff, because then he could have, put it in biblical terms. And that's another thing. If we don't explain our troubles in biblical terms, then our enemies ain't gonna acknowledge it. He ain't gonna see it. He ain't gonna see it. It's got to be explained in biblical terms. We got to explain all our problems in biblical terms, and how it relate to Tanakh history, and how we are those Israelites that broke covenant, and that's the only reason why our enemies got the power to do what they do, and how we can point out what they doing. And that's gonna change everything. How about this, Hebrews? This is what we Israelites were told meant about being driven out the land once the covenant was broken. And I'm going to just read a few of these verses. Prophet Moses basically laid it out. You know what I'm saying? And what Prophet Moses said, and then came to pass. All right, we're going to start at Deuteronomy 30. And it shall come to pass, when all these things are come upon thee, the blessings and the curses which I have set before thee, and thou shalt call them to mind among all nations, whether the Elohim had driven thee. See, that means that the Israelites would have been kicked off the land at one point. And when this was said, we hadn't even started coming into the promised land. We hadn't even started coming into the promised land, and how Prophet Moses was giving this speech, just before he passed away. And so let's see. All right. And it shall come to pass, when all these things are come upon thee, the blessings and the curses which I have set before thee, and thou shalt call them to mind among all the nations where the Elohim thy Yah have driven thee, and thou shalt return unto the Elohim thy Yah, and obey his voice according to all that I have commanded thee this day, thou and thy children, and all with all thine heart and with all thy soul, that the Elohim thy Yah will turn thy captivity and have compassion upon thee, and will return and gather thee from all the nations where the Elohim thy Yah hath scattered thee. So then that means at one point the Israelites would be driven off the land. Here Prophet Moses telling them outright that, you're going to be in other lands messed up, you know what I'm saying, in oppression, and that it's going to take the Creator to have compassion on you, you know what I'm saying, to bring you back from those lands once driven out. And how about Hebrews? We in this state right now. We in this state right now what Prophet Moses was talking about. If any of them be driven out unto the othermost parts of heaven, from thence will the Elohim thy Yah gather thee, and from thence will he fetch thee, and the Elohim thy Yah will bring thee into the land which thy fathers possessed, and thou shalt possess it, and he will do thee good, and multiply thee above thy fathers. And the Elohim thy Yah will circumcise them heart, and in the heart of thy seed, to love the Elohim thy Yah with all thine heart and with all thy soul, that thou mayest live. And the Elohim thy Yah will put all these curses upon thine enemies, and upon them that hate thee, which prosecute thee. So when the Creator started to turn our captivity, and we start to, come into heritage, that all these curses is going to be on our enemies that was on us. And that how if the Tanakh said, it's no escaping it. And our enemies must know this. That's why they have to confess that we are the Israelites and try to make amendments with us. Because if they don't, the curses is waiting for them. And there's no escaping it. Like how we couldn't escape the curses in the prophecies of the Creator, our enemies not going to be able to. All right. This is Deuteronomy 30, verse 8. And I'm showing eventually how the Creator in so many verses by his prophets say that we Israelites will be driven out the land, and how it come to pass, and how that the world is kind of like being asleep to this, that if the Israelites would be driven out the land, and then they will have to go through the hardships that the curses that the Creator said that would be on the Israelites, the curses, and how that it was no escaping that, and how other nations has been turning a blind eye to this, not wanting to recognize this, because the people who been portraying as Israelites and that isn't been benefiting them. All right. Then many of these folks ain't never had that much power. The European Caucasian race ain't never had this much power till the Israelites broke covenant and been subjected. All their powers come from our subjection. All right. And the Elohim thy Yah will make thee plenteous. Let me see. All right, 8. And thou shalt return and obey the voice of the Elohim and do all his commandment which I command thee this day. And the Elohim thy Yah will make thee plenteous in every work of thine hand, in the fruit of thy body, and in the fruit of thy cattle, and in the fruit of thy land for good. And for the Elohim will again rejoice over thee for good, as he rejoices over thy fathers, if thou shalt hearken unto the voice of the Elohim thy Yah, to keep his commandments and his statutes which are written in the book of the law. And if thou turn to the Elohim thy Yah with all thine heart and with all thy soul, for this commandment which I command thee this day is not hidden from thee, neither is it far off. Now remember, Prophet Moses giving this speech, his last ceremony, his last speech before he passed. So, he gonna be telling the truth. He gonna put his whole heart in it, and he gonna try to explain it the best way that we can understand, to that if we broke covenant, that these things would happen to us. All right. For this commandment which I command thee this day, it is not hidden from thee, neither is it far off, neither it is not in heaven, that thou shouldest say, who shall go up for us to heaven and bring it unto us, that we may hear it and do it? Neither is it beyond the sea, that thou shouldest say, who shall go over the sea for us and bring it unto us, that we may hear it and do it? But the word is very nigh unto thee, in thy mouth and in thy heart, that thou mayest do it. See, I set before thee this day life and good, and death and evil. Man, listen to what Prophet Moses said. See, I set before thee this day life and good, death and evil. And man, our whole life been consisted of that, man. The death and the evil, man. Pure misery in this captivity. And that I command thee this day to love the Elohim thy Yah, to walk in his ways, and to keep his commandments and his statutes and his judgments, that thou mayest live and multiply. See, this Amorite, Canaanite culture that we are subjected to today, take your life away and subtract from life, because it's disease, misery, oppression, and that's what they produce. And being caught in that system, you gonna succumb to it, as we have. Man, millions of them perished. Millions, hundreds of millions of them perished here in captivity. All right. See, I have set before thee this day life and good, and death and evil, and that I command thee this day to love the Elohim thy Yah, to walk in his ways, and to keep his commandments and his statutes and his judgment, that thou mayest live and multiply. And the Elohim thy Yah shall bless thee in the land whither thou goest to possess it. But if thine heart turn away, so that thou wilt not hear, but shall be drawn away, and worship other gods and serve them. You see what it say? If thou shalt be drawn away. So that means somebody in the promised land could trick you and draw you away from the Creator. And I show in plenty of videos how the Egyptians tricked us, as well as the Canaanites, and how that they didn't want us to have that covenant, because Egypt had to do trade on the other side of the promised land. Egypt had to do trade on the other side of that promised land with the Mesopotamians and the other wicked peoples. And as long as we had that covenant, that they couldn't come across the promised land and trespass. And that's why the Egyptians kept us on their gods through the tribe of Ephraim, and kept us messed up. And man, it come to pass, just like Prophet Moses said. But if thine heart is turned away, so that thou wilt not hear, but shall be drawn away. That means somebody can draw you away from the Creator. Somebody got the skills and the knowledge to draw you away from the Creator. And that knowledge and skills is come from the Amorite culture. And how about the Amorite culture got us Israelites in captivity right now today, drawing Israelites away from the Creator, and how did they got the Israelites so messed up and confused in this captivity that they think that wicked music is soulful and righteous and so forth, and how that the wicked music is evil. Yes, yes, our enemies is evil and low down like that. Our enemies is real evil and low down like that. Yeah, our enemies is evil and low down like that. How they hate the truth. They hate the truth to be known. But if thine heart turn away so that thou wilt not hear, but shall be drawn away and worship other gods and serve them, I denounce unto you this day that ye shall surely perish, and that ye shall not prolong your days upon the land, whether thou goest to possess over Jordan, to go to possess it. I call heaven and earth to record this day against you, that I have set before you life and death, blessing and cursing. Therefore choose life, that both thou and thy seed may live. Now that's some deep stuff right there. That's real deep what Prophet Moses said. I'm going to read this again. But if thine heart turn away so that thou wilt not hear, but shall be drawn away and worship other gods and serve them, I denounce unto you this day that ye shall surely perish, and that ye shall not prolong your days upon the land, whether thou goest to possess over Jordan, to go to possess it. I call heaven and earth to record this day against you, that I have set before you life and death, blessings and cursings. Therefore choose life, that both thou and thy seed may live, that thou mayest love the Elohim thy Yah, and that thou mayest obey his voice, and that thou mayest cleave unto him. For if he is thy life and the length of thy days, that thou mayest dwell in the land which the Elohim sware unto thy fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob, to give them. So now Prophet Moses telling us that we can be tricked and drawn away from the Creator, and that once we got in the promised land, that we would have to be vigilant and not being drawn away from the Creator, and that, man, them people that was in the land, the Amorites, tricked us as they tricking us right now today in captivity, and not worshiping the Creator Yah. You know, man, it's awful. All right, let's go to Deuteronomy 32. 32, let's see what this say. Deuteronomy 32. Deuteronomy 32. Let me see if I can remember that verse. Let's see, 45. All right. And Moses made the end of speaking all these words to Israel. And he said unto them, set your hearts unto all the words which I testify among you this day, which ye shall command your children to observe to do in all the words of this law. For it is not a vain thing for you, because it is your life. Here it is again. He's saying that following the law and trying to do what Almighty Yah wanted us to do was our life, and how we caught in the death captivity with our enemies just tearing us left and right. You know, for it is not a vain thing for you, because it is your life, and through this thing ye shall prolong your days in the land, whether ye go over Jordan to possess it. And the Elohim spake unto Moses that self same day, saying, you know, he told Moses to get on up into the mountains, you know what I'm saying, and go on and pass away. But you see how that, you know, that was our strength, and our life was following the Creator's law. You know, let's go look at some more verses, meaning about the Israelites being driven out the land. All right, let's go to Leviticus 26. I'm gonna put Leviticus 20:26. Man, you know what I'm saying? This son in Joshua. Let's see what Prophet Joshua had to say if I could just walk down the line. All right, Joshua. And we're going to see what Prophet Joshua had to say before he passed away. Because usually when the prophet, you know, and then completed the mission and then got over, he going to warn the Israelites not to worship the Egyptian religion or the Canaanite religion. They going to warn us before they pass, and they going to say, hey, you can be driven out the land if you worship the enemy's religion. You know, you're going to be driven out the land if you worship the enemy's religion. All right, let's see what Prophet Joshua say. I'm going to start at 8:18. Let me see. 24:18. And the Elohim drave out from before us all the people, even the Amorites which dwell in the land. Therefore will we also serve the Elohim, for he is our Yah. And Joshua said unto the people, ye cannot serve the Elohim, for he is a holy Yah. He is a jealous Yah. He will not forgive your transgressions nor your sins. If ye forsake the Elohim and serve strange gods, then he will turn and do you hurt and consume you after that he had done you good. So what he's saying is, if the Creator Almighty Yah do you some good and then you turn around and doing evil, that he gonna get you. And then that's what happened to us, you know, because, you know, the Creator did us good by bringing us into the promised land. And, you know, he fulfilled that prophecy to Prophet Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And then how we turned bad. And then how we had to be driven out the land. You know, okay, let's go to Exodus. Man, I should have got to Exodus before I got to Joshua. And then let's see what it says. You know, our sins, you know, will get you kicked out the land. It's basically what all the prophets gonna say. Let's see. All right, we're gonna get to Exodus. Exodus 23. Exodus 23:32. Let's see. 23:32. Oh yeah, this is about us not making the covenant with the peoples in the land, because that'll get us driven out. You know? And this is Exodus 23. Exodus 23:32. Thou shalt make no covenant with them, nor with their gods. They shall not dwell in the land, lest they make thee sin against me. For if thou serve their gods, it will surely be a snare unto you. And then to be a snare unto us is to get us driven out the land. You know, we will be driven out the land for worshiping the Canaanite religion, and how that was stipulated. There was no escaping getting driven out the land once we start worshiping the Amorites, Canaanite religion. All right, this is Exodus 34:12. Take heed to yourself, lest thou make a covenant with the inhabitants of the land, whether thou goest, lest it be for a snare in the midst of thee. But ye shall destroy their altars and break down their images and cut down their groves. For thou shalt worship no other gods. For the Elohim, whose name is jealous, is a jealous Yah. Lest thou make a covenant with the inhabitants of the land, and they do go a whoring after their gods, and do sacrifice unto their gods, and one call thee, and thou eat of their sacrifice. That's like right now today. Me and Hebrews eat the enemy's religious food. You know what I'm saying? That's like Thanksgiving. You know, Hebrews will go over their family members' house and eat Thanksgiving and say, well, I don't celebrate Thanksgiving, but you still eating that food dedicated to that old evil God, the Thanksgiving God. The same way with Christmas, you'll go over your family members' house Christmas, Memorial Days, the 4th of July, and say, I don't celebrate that stuff, but you still be eating that food and you celebrating it is what you doing. You celebrating that stuff. All right. So we will be driven out the land for all that old wicked stuff. You know, all that old wicked stuff. All right. All right. Let me see. These thou make a covenant with the inhabitants of the land, and they go a horn after their gods, and they do sacrifice unto their gods, and one call thee, and thou eat of the sacrifice, and thou take of thy daughter unto thy son, and they daughters go a horn after their gods, and make thy sons go a horn after their gods. See, that's one of the reasons why the enemies promote a mixed culture and a mixed race, because they know you're not going to be able to worship Almighty Yah if your spouse don't, and that 9 out of 10 that love gonna overwhelm truth and so forth, and how you'll be blind and can't worship Almighty Yah when you got a spouse that's, you know, not of your ethnicity and stuff. And that was outlined, and that's one of the things that our enemies do to our peoples right now today, is pair them up with somebody else that ain't part of their ethnic group. Look, thou shalt make thee no molten gods. The feast of unleavened bread shalt thou keep 7 days. Thou shalt eat unleavened bread, and as I command thee in the one. Let me get down the first link. All right, so and thou shalt observe the feast of weeks. Let me see. 3 times a year we had to be at the temple, but I'm trying to get to the verses where he said we would be driven out, because we know that we got into the promised land and we didn't do nothing right. You know, we was only in the promised land for 800 years, and we was on Egyptian Canaanite culture for about 600 of those years. Look, for I will cast out the nations before thee, and enlarge thy borders, neither shall any man desire thy land, when thou shalt go up to appear before the Elohim thy Yah thrice in a year. Thou me and I had a whole lot of verses showing that we'll be kicked out the land. Let's get to Leviticus 18. Let's see what I got there. Let's go and warm up and get to it. Alright, Leviticus 18 was the stuff that we wasn't supposed to do, and how we wasn't supposed to follow the Canaanite, Amorite culture, the Egyptian culture, and so forth, because, you know, that evil wickedness would get us kicked out the land. You know, you know what I'm saying? It would get us driven out the land. And we was doing the same things that the other people was doing, that supposedly had got them driven out the land, but they tricked us, you know. And let's go to Ezekiel 6:6. Ezekiel 6:6. And that's a trip how they got the book of Ezekiel before the book of Jeremiah, and the book of Ezekiel go before the book of Jeremiah. You know, this was during the Babylonian wars, you know, after we had come out of Egypt, and then we, you know, with Prophet Moses giving his speech, then Joshua, and then we got into the little bondages and judges, and we was all messed up. And then how Samuel, Prophet Samuel, come about eventually and restored some order, and then King Saul, then King David, and then, you know, that's only like 200 some years of worshiping the Creator. And then how we fell off from King Solomon, and how the kingdom was split up, and then how we had troubles ever since then, and how the tribe of Ephraim kept an Egyptian connection and kept the Egyptian worship on us, and how they would stay on us for 300 years, and how we was given chance after chance after chance after chance. And man, the Creator gave us chance after chance after chance, and that'd be the history in Isaiah, First Kings, Second Kings, Isaiah, Ezekiel, and all the other prophets. You know, you read over and over how the Creator gave the Israelite nation a chance after chance after chance Well, it finally get down to the Babylonian wars, after the Syrians then came and then chastised us. That didn't do no good. And then the Babylonians would eventually come to drive us off the land, and that would be in the book of Ezekiel. They experienced, the Babylonians, coming the first time, and then we didn't straighten up during Ezekiel time, and then how that them folks come back, and then how it was over with. All right, all right. This is what the Creator said after we done broke the covenant. We was steady on Egyptian religion and how we wouldn't leave the Egyptian religion alone. All right, this is Ezekiel 6. In all your dwelling places the city shall be laid waste, and the high places shall be desolate, that your altars may be laid waste and made desolate, and your idols may be broken and cease, and your images may be cut down, and your works may be abolished. And that what was happening to the Israelites. And the slain shall fall in the midst of you, and ye shall know that I am the Elohim. Yet I will leave a remain, that ye may have some that shall escape the sword among the nations, where ye shall be scattered through the countries. See, scattered. That means that you won't be on the promised land. You ain't gonna be on the promised land. All right, now let's go to Ezekiel 23. Ezekiel 23. Ezekiel 23. Ezekiel 23:46. Let's see what that say. For this saith the Elohim Yah, I will bring up a company upon them, and will give them to be removed and spoiled. So, we was going to be removed off the land. And then, this is the first time that they came during Ezekiel time, around about 595 BC, and then how they came back again, because how we wouldn't stop sinning, and how we'll go to the temple and say we're gonna stop robbing and killing each other, and how we never stopped it, and then how the Creator sent for the Chaldeans, and the Chaldeans came, and then they drove us off the land into Africa. All right, let's go to let's see what Jeremiah say, because this is going to be the last act on the promised land, and this is when it was over with in the book of Jeremiah. He going to be our last prophet for the 99%. And then if you go to Jeremiah 1, let me see, let's go to Jeremiah 4:1. Jeremiah 4:1. If thou wilt return, O Israel, said the Elohim, return unto me, and if thou wilt put away then abominations out of my sight, then shalt thou not remove. What do you mean by not remove? What do you mean by not remove? He mean getting up off the land, like Prophet Moses had said from the beginning, how all the Israelites would be driven off the land. So if all the Israelites is driven off the land and gone into captivity, that it would take the Creator to restore them, and not no money and so forth. All right, so we see that. All right, now let's see what it says down here. Let me see. This is Jeremiah 4:7. The lion is come upon his ticket, and the destroyer of the Gentile is on his way. He is gone forth from his place to make thy land desolate, and thy cities shall be laid waste without an inhabitant. Without an inhabitant. So that means everybody gonna be up off the land. If it ain't gonna be nobody there without an inhabitant, without inhabitant means nobody there. Vacant. All right, so we know that was said. All right, let's go to verse 28. Let's see what verse 28 say. For this shall the earth mourn, and the heavens above be black, because I have spoken it. I have proposed it, and I will not repent, neither will I turn back from it. The whole city shall flee for the noise of the horsemen and bowmen. They shall go into thickets and climb up on the rocks. Every city shall be forsaken, and not a man dwell therein. Not a man dwell therein. So that means that the land was going to be empty at some point. And then that happened during the Babylonian wars, while prophet Jeremiah was giving his speech. And if you read the book of Jeremiah, you will see that he constantly said over and over that the skintiness, that the horsemen and bowmen was going to come and drive us up off the land. And how that we was going to have to get up off the land. And there wasn't going to be no questioning about that. And how we was going to have to get up off the land because we had been tricked by the Egyptians. You know, the whole time, you know, the Egyptians and the other nations tricking us left and right. Left and right, we being tricked because them people didn't want us to do the covenant. Because the covenant was a threat to them. And how that they evil and wickedness couldn't flourish if we Israelites was doing the covenant. Okay, so prophet Jeremiah, you know, said that it wouldn't be nobody in the land. All right, and then let's go to Jeremiah 7:3. All right, 7:3. All right. This said the Elohim of hosts, the Yah of Israel, amend your ways and your doings, and I will cause you to dwell in this place. Meaning that if you don't do what he say, then you ain't gonna be able to dwell in this place. So, you know, we know that came to pass. All right, let's go to 9:11. Jeremiah 9:11. Let's see what it say. And I will make Jerusalem heaps in a den of dragons, and I will make the cities of Judah desolate without an inhabitant. Without an inhabitant. Okay, when did that come to pass? Them steady warnings. We steady getting warnings. We steady getting warnings. Alright, let's go to 10:18. Alright. For this said the Elohim, behold, I will sling out the inhabitants of the land at this once, and I will make distress them, and I will distress them that they may find it so. And that was breaking covenant, and we show enough in distress now. You know, let's go to 26, Jeremiah 26:9, and see what it says. Now Jeremiah gonna be the last prophet for us, you know, before we was ran off the land into Africa. Now let's see Jeremiah 26:9. Why hast thou prophesied in the name of the Elohim, saying, this house shall be like Shiloh, and this city shall be desolate without an inhabitant? Without an inhabitant. And all the people were gathered against Jeremiah in the house of the Elohim. Prophet Jeremiah had told them that, you know, we was going to be kicked out the land and wasn't nobody going to be in it. That if we kept doing the wickedness that we was doing, and how our enemies was on the way. And we said, nah, man, we ain't trying to hear that. And how we gonna get Jeremiah for even saying that? And how about the enemies pull up on us? And then when the enemies pull up on us, that it was over with. And that how we never recovered. How we never recovered when these folks right here pulled up on us. When they pulled up on us, the Scythians, that's Ashkenazi. And when they pulled up on us, man, they beat us down so bad. And the Tanakh give you his history, how we were scared of the Chaldeans. Yes, Ashkenazi controlled the Chaldeans under the name, the Chaldean nation under the name Scythian. And how that we was chased off the land by them, you know. So we know, you know, that that the Creator Yah kept telling us over and over and over that we're going to get kicked out the land. And then how it come to pass in chapter 44, verse 2, we was off the land and we was on our way into Africa to do the Egyptian religion. Look, 44, Jeremiah 44, verse 2. Thus saith the Elohim of hosts, the Yah of Israel, ye have seen all the evil that I have brought upon Jerusalem and upon all the cities of Judah. And behold, this day they are a desolation, and no man dwelleth therein. So everybody was gone up off the land. And this show you that everybody was off the land because we was on our way into Africa as the people, was in Africa when they were speaking to Jeremiah. And this what they said. Then all the men which knew that their wives had burned incense unto other gods, and all the women that stood by, a great multitude, even all the people that dwelt in the land of Egypt and Pathros, answered Jeremiah, saying, As for the word that thou hast spoken unto us in the name of the Elohim, we will not hearken unto thee, but we will certainly do so whatever thing that they go forth out of our own mouth to burn incense unto the Queen of Heaven, and to pour out drink offerings unto her, as we have done, we and our fathers, our kings, our princes in the cities of Judah and in the streets of Jerusalem. For then had we plenty of food and were well, and saw no evil. But since we left off to burn incense unto the Queen of Heaven, and to pour out drink offerings unto her, we have wanted all things, and have been consumed by the sword and by famine. So we was up off the land, like the Creator said he would drive us up off the land. And guess what? Africa ain't nothing but the Sahara. Look, you see this right here? This is the Sahara, and we was driven into the Sahara. We was driven into the Sahara. We was driven into the Sahara, and Egypt is part of the Sahara, and we was driven up off the land like the Creator said into Africa. So you know that if we was driven off the land into Africa, that the next thing was gonna happen was the curses. And then that's when you start, you can match our history to biblical history. And if you go to Deuteronomy 28, we know that one of the main curses, and then the Jews will holler, say, that's that says that they will be took to Egypt and nobody would buy them. And I got on one Jew for trying to mislead the people with that lie, and showed him how in history the Jews had a bank set up for those that get kidnapped and taken into slavery, how they'll redeem their people and get them out of bondage. But how did the Creator see that the Israelites took into Egypt, which mean bondage, in ships would not get redeemed, and would nobody be able to redeem them by us about our troubles and so forth, and how that happened. And if you go to Deuteronomy 28, and then you get to 36, and the Elohim shall bring thee into Egypt again with ships, by the way of I spake unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again, and there ye shall be sold unto your enemies for bondman and bondwoman, and no man shall buy you, meaning nobody can redeem you. And then I show on here how close, with the satellite map, how close Africa and the Promised Land is to each other. Man, it's in running distance. Look at this. Look at this right here. Alright, this Egypt. This is where we would run to. This is where we would run to. And this is the Promised Land right here. But if you get closer, man, you'll see. Look, man, that's a highway right there. That's a highway. And this is the Promised Land right here. And we know that our borders went from the Nile all the way to the Euphrates, but you see right here, man, let's get a little closer. Look, man, that's a straight shot. That's a straight shot from the Promised Land to Egypt. Man, I'm talking about that's in running distance. Man, if you had a bicycle, you could take off from the Promised Land early in the morning. Man, you'll be in Egypt in the evening time. That's on a bicycle. That's on a bicycle ride. And then just imagine us running, trying to get away from the Chaldeans and them folks, that how we gonna, get on down. And how we came into Egypt and then was doing the Egyptian religion and stuff. And then how we never returned back to the Promised Land after the Babylonians were defeated by the Persians. How we never returned back to the Promised Land, and how we went deeper into the interior of Africa to live, and our first derogatory name was Gramentian. But you see, Egypt real close to the promised land. I'm talking about in running distance. So that's would be one of the reasons why we wouldn't follow the covenant like we supposed to and stay down like we supposed to, because safety, Egypt, that we thought was safety, was close by. And then it was in the back of us. It was in our back door. Alright. I said something about that video about the camps teach lies that anybody could see. When I made that video, man, my phone would only record for 20 minutes, sometimes 15 minutes, man. If I had recorded anything or any pictures, took any pictures, man, it might last about 11 12 minutes. But I got a camera and I want to do that video over and in more detail and how I'm going to do that. But I'm going to give y'all a little taste of it now. And how the camps teach lies is that they teach a 10 lost tribe doctrine. And I'm going to show you, Israelites, how you can get rid of that 10 lost tribe doctrine real easy. Is if you take them to Second Chronicles chapter 30, dealing with King Hezekiah. How he said that the Israelites escaped the Assyrians, and how those tribes was there after the Assyrian Empire was defeated by the Babylonians, and how those tribes was there just before the Babylonians pull up. All the tribes was in their inheritance when King Josiah cleaned up the idol worship from the promised land before the Egyptians killed him. You see? And if you go to Second Chronicle 30, and this is why the camps teach lies, because they've been teaching that it was a 10 lost tribes, and then they got all these ethnic groups, people that didn't go into Africa, driven off the land into Africa like the Creator said, and who didn't get on ships and get caught up in the transatlantic slave trade, and how that they making them folks Israelites, and how the camps teach lies. And man, when the Hebrew first wake up, yeah, you might fall victim to one of those camps and believe in their doctrines. But after you run across the truth, you got to break free from that stuff. You got to break free from them lies. And how did those camps are working for the enemies teaching those lies. And I got videos showing how we should have one history and how that history should roll off the Tanakh. How the Tanakh is world history still, and how you can match world events up in the BC days with Tanakh history. All right, this is how you stop them camps from preaching that 10 lost tribes lie. And this is Second Chronicles 30. And Hezekiah sent to all Israel and Judah and wrote letters also to Ephraim and Manasseh that they should come to the house of the Elohim at Jerusalem to keep the Passover unto the Elohim Yah of Israel. And this also stopped those folks from Europe from claiming the Israelite heritage off the 10 lost tribes too. You got a lot of people in Europe, royalty, thinking that they kin to the tribes of Israel from that 10 lost tribe myth. And how that they are only kin to those Ashkenazi and Sephardi Jews that went into their lands and converted them peoples. All right. For the king had taken counsel and his princes and all the congregation in Jerusalem to keep the Passover in the second month, for they could not keep it at that time, because the priests had not sanctified themselves sufficiently, neither had the people gathered themselves together to Jerusalem. And the thing pleased the king and all the congregation, so they established a decree to make proclamation throughout all Israel, from Beersheba even to Dan. See, even Dan was there. That they should come to keep the Passover unto the Elohim Yah of Israel at Jerusalem, for they had not done it of a long time in such sort as it was written. So the post went with the letters from the king and his princes throughout all Israel, and Judah, and according to the commandment of the king, saying, Ye children of Israel, turn again unto the Elohim Yah of Israel, of Abraham, Isaac, and Israel, and he will return to the remain of you that are escaped out of the hands of the kings of Assyria. You see the S on the kings of Assyria, so them Israelites escaped out of the hands of the king of Syria. And this is in 715 BC. This is 7 years. This 715 BC. This is 7 years after the so-called Assyrian wars. where they allegedly took 10 tribes, but that's a lie. Let's see. Be not like your fathers and like your brethren, which trespass are. And then as you read on down, you know what I'm saying, and you get to verse 10. So the post passed from city to city throughout Ephraim and Manasseh, even unto Zebulun. But they laughed them to scorn and mocked them. Nevertheless, the verse of Asher, Manasseh, and Zebulun humbled themselves and came to Jerusalem. See, them Israelites still there in the land. All right, and then as you read and continue to read, for a multitude, you know what I'm saying, and then you get to 18, for a multitude of the people, even many of Ephraim and Manasseh, Ishkar, Zebulun had not cleansed themselves, yet they did eat the Passover. Otherwise, then it was written. But Hezekiah prayed for them, you know. So all them tribes were still there. And then King Hezekiah's great grandson, King Josiah. Now this is King Hezekiah's son Manasseh, who had a son Amon, who had a son Josiah, who had all the tribes. And this is in 640 BC. The Assyrian Empire is being destroyed by the Assyrians, but yet all the tribes are still at home, as they was in King Hezekiah time and as they are in King Josiah time. So those camps be teaching lies when they be teaching the 10 lost tribes doctrine, and you can see that Prophet Jeremiah was around during King Josiah time, so all the tribes that was around then couldn't have disappeared, because Prophet Jeremiah would have wrote about them and how that Israel was up off their lot and wasn't called by their names no more, because the Babylonians was coming from the book of Ezekiel, which is before the book of Jeremiah. And then the book of Jeremiah, around 588 BC, the Babylonians was chasing us up off the land like the Creator said that he would do for worshiping Egyptian religion. But when King Josiah was around, this was our chance not to be destroyed. This only chance, and we had 31 years of following the law under his reign. And then after the Egyptians killed him, then put us back on Egyptian religion, then we was chased off the land into Africa, and we did that act that I read in the book of Jeremiah, where we said we're going to worship the Queen of Heaven religion. Now how about our enemies ain't never tried to fit this in their history, because they know that they can't fit this history right here. So they ain't never spoke about it, and it's one of the quietest history on the face of this earth, that the Israelites went into Africa during the Babylonian Wars. Look, Josiah was 8 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned in Jerusalem 130 years. And he did that which was right in the sight of the Elohim, and walked in the ways of David his father, and declined neither to the right hand nor to the left. For in the 8th year of his reign, while he was yet young, he began to seek after the Yah of David his father. And in the 12th year, he began to purge Judah and Jerusalem from the high places and the groves and the carved images and the molten images. And they break down the altars and Balaam in his presence, and the images that were on high above them he cut down, and the groves and the carved images and the molten images he brake in pieces, and made dust of them, and strode it upon the graves of them that sacrificed to them. And he burnt the bones of the priests upon their altars, and cleansed Judah and Jerusalem. So did he in the cities of Ephraim, Manasseh, Salmon, even unto Naphtali, with their mattocks round about. Now let's look and see this here, because we know that Hezekiah sent the letter from Beersheba to Dan, but now King Josiah was cleaning it up from Manasseh to Simon, to Naphtali. So them be the tribes right here in the middle. See, Ephraim, Manasseh, Ishkar, Naphtali, right there. That's at the end. That's right there with Dan. Dan and Naphtali right there together. So King Josiah cleaned up the whole kingdom, Judah first, and then he went and cleaned up the whole Israel. So, you know, those Israelites was there during King Josiah time, and then when when he was killed by the Egyptians, and then they put his son on, King Jehoiakim, we would go to Egyptian religion, and all the tribes would go into Africa. And then that'll be this verse right here. That'll be this verse right here. Go to 2nd Kings 25:26. And it'll show you that all the tribes ran into Africa. Now the tribes up off their land ain't being called by their names no more. Alright. And all the people, both small, this is 2nd Chronicles verse 26, 25, 25, 26. And all the people, both small and great, and the captains of the armies arose and came to Egypt, for they were afraid of the Chaldees. And that'd be Ashkenaz chasing us off the land, just like the Creator said he would do. You know, just like the Creator said he would do. So, you know, King Josiah had all the people there. And then, you know, let's go to Prophet Jeremiah and see that he was around during King Josiah time. And then if he around during King Josiah time and all those Israelites there, and then we will be told that we will be driven off the land. And then how we were driven off the land into Africa, and how we never return home. How we never return home. And we are the Hebrews right now, just trying to straighten our history up. And I got videos showing how them camps been teaching lies, and how the Jewish myths been passed on as Israelite history. All right, Jeremiah 1. The words of Jeremiah the son of Halakah of the priests that were in Anath in the land of Benjamin, to whom the word of the Elohim came in the days of Josiah, the son of Amon, king of Judah, in the 13th year of his reign. So right after he cleaned Jerusalem up and Judah up, that prophet Jeremiah was there when he cleaned the whole Israel up. And then that's why come you can see the name Israel, you know, still mentioned throughout the book of Jeremiah. You know, Israel still mentioned. You know what I'm saying? Be astonished, all ye heavens, at this, and be horribly afraid. Be ye very desolate, said the Elohim, for my people have committed two evils. They have forsaken me, the fountain of living waters, and hewed them out crescents, broken crescents that cannot hold water. Is Israel a servant? Is he a homeborn slave? Why is he spoiled? The only reason we spoiled is because we can't leave them folks religion alone, and how we don't have love for each other. And you know, you can't worship the Creator, man, with those two conditions right there. All right. So look, let's see some is Israel. All right, there go Israel right here. The Lord, the Elohim said, this is Jeremiah 2. This is 3:6. And the Elohim said unto me, in the days of Josiah the king, hast thou seen that which backsliding Israel had done? You see, she is gone up upon every high mountain and under every green tree, and there had played the harlot. And I said, after she had done all these things, turn down to me, but she returned not, nor her treacherous sister Judah, you know, saw it. And I said, when for all this cause whereby backsliding Israel committed adultery, I have put her away and given her a bill of divorce. So they wasn't going to even be mentioned no more. And remember, here go Israel mentioned again by Jeremiah. So it was just Judah. All right. And the Elohim said unto me, the backslider Israel has justified herself more than treacherous Judah. Go and proclaim these words toward the north, and say, return thou backsliding Israel, said the Elohim, and I will not cause then anger to fall upon you, for I am merciful, and said the Elohim, and I will not keep my anger forever. So, you know, Prophet Jeremiah went and was dealing with the Israelites, and I got a whole bunch of verses. I'm talking about, man, that's showing that Israel still in the land. Man, I'm talking about a whole bunch of verses. And everywhere you turn, Prophet Jeremiah is still dealing with the Israelites. And then the next thing will happen is we will all be driven off the land, and how we will all be in Judah and be recognized as Judites, but how we will be driven into Africa, into the curses, just like the Creator said for forsaking him. You know, look, the whole city shall flee for the noise of the horsemen and bowmen. They shall go into thickets and climb upon the rocks. Every city shall be forsaken, and no man dwelleth therein. So we know that the Hebrews ran into Africa, as the Tanakh show, and that the curses got us because here we are, here in captivity today. You see what I'm saying? See, the camps ain't teaching this, and the enemies ain't teaching this. Shalom, Hebrews. This is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood. It's easy to show Israelite history now, and how, that's like that demigod worship. I made a video that's getting some pretty hits too, man, about how we can't go into man, we can't go into the promised land worshiping the Egyptian religion. This video right here, where I'm showing how that, on Facebook, when I was on Facebook, how the Christians and the folks that believe in the demigod worship, couldn't get out on me, and how I'm showing them real history. This is another video. How about Hebrews? We cannot go back to the promised land. We cannot go back to the promised land believing in the demigod worship, because that's what got us kicked out. And that's what the Creator was showing us when he was telling us that how that our enemies will snare us and keep us ensnared and make us sin, and that how we would lose the covenant and so forth, and get kicked out the land. And that's what happened. So we can't go back to the promised land. Yeah, that's me, the king, right there. Yeah, that's me, the king for the Israelite Brotherhood and the spokesperson for the Israelite community. Check this out, this post that I got here. Look, the whole demigod concept come from the settlers of Israel. These people here worship God's sons thousands of years before the Israelite nation was born. I'm showing them how the Sephardims, the Sephardims that was placed in our land in 722 BC, worship a God's son, and how that they was placed in Samaria. And then I show that after they was placed and was there and they believed in God's sons, how some more people was placed in the promised land that believed in God's sons. About 12 nations of peoples was placed in the promised land in the book of Ezra. That's Ezra 4:9, and how did all those folks would believe in God's sons. During the Persian times, 12 nations snuck in on us, and they believed in God's sons. And then I show how the Greeks believed in God's sons. The Greeks worship God's sons. And then I show how the Romans believed in God's sons too. That when the New Testament come about, it was all those peoples that had settled in the land, and how wasn't no Israelites around during New Testament time, Roman time, because how the Greeks destroyed the exiles, the 1%. I got videos going into that, and I'm gonna do some more videos explaining and exploring how the Greeks destroyed the exiles, that 1% that come home from Babylon. And even prophet Jeremiah said that they would be destroyed. Let me get that in too. And this is how that the Israelites is teaching them in them camps, is teaching false history, because they teaching the demigod worship. A demigod worship is a woman having a miraculous baby and so forth. But if you go to Jeremiah 6, Isaiah chapter 6, and you're going to see what the Creator has said. I'm not going to read all of it. I'm going to get down to the most important parts. Let me see. All right. So, the Elohim was around, the Creator was around in them angelic beings and so forth. And, he had told them to go on a mission. Let me start. In the year that King Uzziah died, I saw also the Elohim sitting up on a throne, high and lifted up, and his train filled the temple. Above it stood the seraphims. Each one had 6 wings with twain, and covered his face with twain, and he covered his feet with twain, and he did fly. And one cried unto another and said, Holy, holy, holy is the Elohim of hosts. The whole earth is filled with his glory. And the posts of the door moved at the voice of him that cried, and the house was filled with smoke. Then said I, Woe is me, for I am undone, because I am a man of unclean lips, and I dwell in the midst of a people of unclean lips. For my eyes have seen the King, the Elohim of hosts. Now, I can show that Prophet Abraham was strolling with him when they was going to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah, and how the heavenly host sat down and ate lamb and everything, and then went on to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah. See, that's like, us doing the culture that Almighty Yah gave us that would have extinguished that evil Kenite culture, that if we would have followed the law that Almighty Yah gave us, that man, that the whole earth would be at peace. But how that the enemies of the Creator will is being driven, and how that they trying to get out in space and spread their wickedness among the heavens, and how we Israelites have to come into heritage to stop that. Look, then flew one of the Sephims unto me, having a live coal in his hands, which he had taken with the thorn from off the altar, and he laid it upon my mouth and said, Lo, this had touched thy lips, and then iniquity is taken away, and then sin is purged. Also, I heard the voice of the Elohim saying, Whom shall I send, and who will go for us? Then said I here am, send me. And he said, Go and tell this people, hear ye indeed, but understand not, see ye indeed, but perceive not. I got videos going into that. Why come we can't see and hear? Make the heart of this people fat, and make their ears heavy, and shut their eyes, lest they see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and understand with their heart, and convert and be healed. We would pull that on Almighty Yah all the time. That's why we was eventually driven out the land. That's how we'll say, oh, help us, please, please help us, when the enemy fall upon us, and we'll get rescued, and then how we'll go back to the wickedness. And then when some more troubles come and it don't seem like we can get out of it, how we'll say, we change, we're going to do better, we're going to do better. And how we'll go back to wickedness, and how, eventually we was driven out the land because we kept playing them games. But then said I, O Elohim, how long? And he answered, until the cities be wasted without inhabitant, and the houses without men, and the land be utterly desolate. That happened during the book of Jeremiah. And the Elohim have removed men far away, and there be a great forsaking in the midst of the land. The forsaking in the midst of the land was us going to the Egyptian religion. But in it shall be a tenth, and it shall return. Those are the exiles returning from the Babylonian captivity. But in it shall be a tenth, and it shall return, and shall be eaten as a teal tree, and as an oak whose substance is in them when they cast their leaves. So the holy seed shall be the substance thereof, meaning that they was going to get destroyed. You know what I'm saying? And that's what happened to the exiles when the Greeks rolled up, because the Persians were protecting the exiles who could only live in Judah's inheritance. And then they was mixing and sinning with everybody. And then they made the Greeks roll up and put their lights out. And then Jewish history started and false history started. And that was the end of the Israelite history. All right, Hebrews, the Creator said he would kick us out the land, and we know that come to pass, and that these peoples that's claiming the Israelite heritage today is bogus, because the Israelites still in captivity. Shalom. This is a message from the Israelite Brotherhood.